We're back then, guys. It's been a little while since we've had a podcast episode, but we're back. And what a way to start with Jenna Hellmuth from the Terrifier series and loads of amazing other things. She is a stunt actress that she's done American Horror Story, as I've said, Terrifier, Ghostbusters, The Penguin, loads of different things. So we're going to get into her career, how she started, how you get into stunts, and basically just have a chat all the way from New York. Is that right?
That's right, New York City.
Perfect. So what time is it there for you?
We got 11 a.m.
Okay, cool. So you've had some time to wake up, grab a coffee, do your thing. I haven't got you right in the morning. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, Jenna, the first question has got to be how you became a stunt actress, how that kind of journey unfolded, and how it all began for you.
Totally. So the joke answer is, because I have the joke answer, it's my brothers beat me up a lot when I was a kid.
Solid stuff.
Right. So I'm the youngest of three. My two older brothers would always beat me up. And, I became really good at, they'd hit me and I would, The true answer is I was always a performer. And I found out later on that I didn't really like acting. I liked physical performance. I liked moving my body and telling a story with my body. And that kind of evolved over time into I like doing stunts, and I like the storytelling bit of using your body.
Sure, definitely. Amazing.
So that's how I kind of started, and I got my very first start at Universal Orlando. I was a costume character, so I was in one of those big furry suits.
Okay.
And I was in 90-degree weather.
Wow.
And I tried to kind of transition into the stunt world there because they have a few stunt shows.
Sure.
And it just wasn't really working for me. I didn't have a background in stunts. I didn't really have a background in martial arts or anything. I had tried to do Hapkido when I was a kid, but we were kind of poor, so I had to pay for it myself as a 16-year-old.
Sure.
So I didn't really get to fully explore that area.
Okay.
But I went through, the Universal ranks, and I wasn't really getting to where I wanted to go in the stunt world. So I thought, I just got to go for this. I got to go somewhere where nobody really knows me and try and make it happen. So I just gave up my life in Orlando, which is where I grew up in Florida, and moved to New York City. And they had a stunt school here at the time. And I went to that. And that's like 2 weeks. It's like nothing,
Yeah.
But I gave up everything. I moved my entire life to New York City because I knew exactly one stunt person here.
Wow.
And that's how it started. It was kind of a long journey from there. I kind of started in live shows. So I did Renaissance fairs, and I worked at Six Flags for a little while. I did all kinds of performance stuff there in the stunt shows. And that's kind of where I got started learning weapons and how to throw a punch and how to act in those ways.
Sure.
And from there, I kind of moved into television and film, it was a long journey.
Right. Yeah. What an amazing journey, though. There's quite a lot to kind of unpack there. So what did you like most about performing? And was that from a young age you were like, yeah, I like kind of doing this? And in what way was that fit in with you, I suppose, and who you are as a person?
Yeah, the joke in my I've always been a ham. And I was putting on shows for my parents when I was, 3, 4, 5. I was putting on whole performances. But, as I got into high school, I didn't really go that route because, it's funny, but it's just everybody's path. I didn't really get along with the acting teacher there. She annoyed me. So I just didn't do that. And I ended up going through art. And I thought for a while I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist.
Yeah.
Which is why I moved to Orlando to do Universal Studios. And it's funny, the path crossed again. I kind of always have been open to what has interested me. Definitely. Which is why each step kind of happens the way it does,
Fantastic. What was the experience like working at Orlando then? If you can kind of lift the veil on working behind the scenes and, as you say, in 90-degree heat in a big fluffy costume and stuff like that. I bet that was fun. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and it opened up a lot of thought processes for me because I would be like Woody Woodpecker, and I would be Sam I Am with Green Eggs and Ham. And each one has very distinct movements. And I would have to think, okay, I'm not Jenna anymore. I'm a male woodpecker who's kind of a dresser. So, you know, I have to walk different. I'd have, you know, I had big thighs. They have like this little like inside kind of interior molding so that you have like big thighs and, you know, different shape of your body. So, you know, I kind of learned how to like become these characters in different aspects. And that was kind of what started the intrigue of like, oh, your body shape, your body movement can tell a different story depending on what you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, every kid loves to see Woody Woodpecker. You get big hugs all the time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is there's a great program called Give Kids the World. They do like amazing work. They do stuff for kids who are in you know, kind of crazy situations where they, you know, they have cancer or they have like some kind of medical condition, and they'll give them, you know, a great day in the parks or whatever they want to do that day. So we had a Give Kids the World kid come up, and I was with Winnie Woodpecker, my partner for the day, and they go, Woody, show us your hands, which our hands were shaped like this. Your gloves had 4 fingers.
Okay.
So I go like this, Winnie goes like this, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they go, see, the kids were wrong. You're not the only one with 4 fingers. And I look down, and this kid has 4 fingers. And I'm in the head, and I like just start bawling. It was like such a sweet moment. The kid was so happy. We gave him a big hug. We signed his autograph book. You know, it's like stuff like that. You're like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah, that stuff sticks, right? That's a good memory. And it's like, yeah, be able to do that for your job. That's amazing.
Totally.
Yeah, cool. So you said then that you moved to New York kind of on a whim. You were just like, right, I'm going to pack it all up. I'm going to go. I'm going to try and make it big. Like, let's go. Yeah, that's a crazy kind of risk to take, I suppose, and go straight from it. Was there something that started it, or was it like, I'm just going to go?
You know, I'm a little bit of a planner. So I was in a long-term relationship at the time. Like I had an apartment, I had everything. And I went to the stunt school, and I came back, and I told my partner at the time, I said, look, I'm going to move in a year. You know, I'm going to take a year to prepare.
Sure.
And then I'm going. You can come with me or you can't, whatever you want.
Okay.
And so that's it. I took that year and saved money so I could move to New York. I ended up moving in with some friends of mine who had moved in, you know, a few months before.
Cool.
And yeah, it was a big jump, and I never actually thought I was going to make it big. That was the thought was, I just want to do this. You know, it didn't really matter to me if it was like in the top tier of stunts. Of course, everybody wants to do the cool stunts, but it was more that like I just wanted this to be what I do.
That's amazing. Cool. Yeah. And how did your family take it then? Like you moving across and going, right, I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to become a stunt actress. I'm going to take a year, but then after that, see ya. I'm off.
Yeah, they're very supportive. You know, like I said, we didn't have like everything growing up, but my parents have always been very supportive of whatever I do. Like I said, I was performing for them when I was a little kid.
Sure.
So they kind of understood that, like, you know, this is what I was gonna, you know, it made sense, I think, for
That's
them.
the route you're gonna take. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't show my parents some of this work that I've done. Like I would never show them the work on Terrifier.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Is that a no-go?
Yeah, mom still gets a little upset when she sees me do like kind of bigger stunts.
Uh-huh.
So it's like I'll show them stuff that is, I say, you know, it's not safe for work. It's safe for parents.
Tamer. Yeah. Tamer. Good. So what was your first introduction into like the kind of stunt world then? You said you did your 2-week course. What kind of things was covered on that? And then where did that lead from? Did you make contacts in the industry through doing that? Did you get some qualifications? Like, yeah, how did it lead on?
So the stunt world changes. But at the time it was it was that you had to do a thing called hustling. So the 2 weeks was, I mean, they gave you a crash course. You got caught on fire, you fell downstairs, you got hit with a car.
Casually. Yeah.
they kind of teach you some of the tricks. Like there's a thing. There's some things. There's a technique. Falling downstairs is falling downstairs, but there's a technique to it where you can try to save yourself.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't get to, but there's techniques to everything. So they try to teach you the technique, and they try to give you like the baby version. You fall down like some padded stairs, or like stairs that they've built where like the angles are better for you, but they go over all that, and then they have a week of like a fighting workshop. So they teach you how to sell punches, how to do kicks, how to do flips and falls and stuff like that. So it's a week and a week. I don't think that stunt school is even around anymore.
Okay.
But I did meet one person there named Aaron, and he was kind of already working at the time. So it was someone that I like looked up to, and he was the reason. He was the one stunt person that I knew in New York. So I thought like, I'm gonna, we'd become friends. And so I said, I'm moving there because of him. But when you move, then, what do you do? Where do you go?
Yeah.
So it's all about, they call it hustling. This was like kind of a little more old school, but there used to be a website called On Location Vacation.
Okay. Right.
It was kind of a tourist website that gave you every single place that they were shooting in New York for the day, and it was supposed to be for tourists to go and like see your favorite show shooting on the street.
Okay.
And stunt people would use this to go and hustle, where you would walk to the set, you would find a PA or someone standing around, and you would go, hey, is the stunt coordinator around today? And you would try to do your research, because the more information you had, the more you could get. Yeah. So you would say, oh, is so-and-so working today? I just wanted to say hi. And they pull out their little sheet and they go, no, he's not working. And you're like, oh, but is he working?
Yeah.
I just want to say hi. I'm not trying to bother you. You'd have to like kind of talk your way onto a set. And then if you got there, and if the coordinator was there, and if the stars aligned, you could go to the coordinator and say, hi, my name is Jenna. I'm trying to be a stunt person.
Yeah.
Do you want my headshot and resume?
Oh, okay. That really is hustling. Yeah, that's quite brazen. Like, you just kind of go in there and it's like, right, this is me. This is what I want to do. Like, it takes some balls. Yeah.
It was many weeks and days of kind of not finding anything or not doing anything, but like you would get that one person that, you're like, maybe this is the guy. I'd been hustling, I think, for like a few years, because I moved into New York in 2010, and it wasn't until 2012 that I got my first SAG contract on a TV show. So it takes a long time sometimes. I mean, it used to. It's all different now. I can't give as much advice to people who want to be stunt people now, because it's all online. It's all being able to show what you can do on
YouTube or whatever, social media, or about that. What did you do for those 2 years then, between 2010 and 2012?
What's that?
What did you kind of do between 2010 and 2012 then?
So I did live shows. So I did the Renaissance Fair. I was Jenny Wren, and I was in the Robin Hood band. So that was cool. I call that my most photographed summer of my entire life.
Cool, yeah.
Because Renaissance fans they're like horror fans, they're just so dedicated, and there's people that are there every week, and they want to get the backstory. Like, the cool thing about the Renaissance Fair versus working a live show, like a live stunt show, is your day starts at 9 a.m. and it's a storyline that happens all the way until 6 p.m. So you're literally telling the audience a story. A lot of people only get like a chess match or the different fights, but then they won't get the whole story. But there are people who love the whole thing. They come in, they'll follow your character line, your storyline for the entire day, which is super cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, diehard fans.
Diehards, just like the horror fans. I mean, it's awesome to see like how much people get out of your storytelling, which is like, as a performer, it's like what you want more than anything.
Yeah.
To have people be interested in the story you're telling.
I bet. That's amazing. What was your first big break then? You said you kind of went on to got a TV show to start off with. Is that right? Yeah. So
Yes,
how
yes.
did that come about? Was that through hustling, and then you went, okay, cool. Like, tell me the story about that and how you know, after what, 2 years of kind of trying to hustle your way in, you finally get
2 years. It
that's
was 2 years
amazing.
of hustling, which is itself frustrating, hard to do. But
Yeah.
networking, you find out where stunt people are training, and you go and you train there. You find out, there's a gymnastics class here that is an adult gymnastics class. You would go to the gymnastics class. You hope you meet someone there. It's all about networking for acting and for stunts. So
Hmm.
it's the relationships you make are most important because trust is such a huge part of the stunt world.
Yeah.
So it was between those 2 years, lots and lots of hustling, taking classes, going to different schools and trying to network. It was probably about 2 years in that I met a coordinator named Tim Gallen. I don't remember what he was on at the time, but I had found him, I hustled him, and I was pretty depressed at that point. Like I was
Understandably.
not getting, yeah, I wasn't getting calls. Nobody was really interested. And I didn't have a background like a lot of people had a background in martial arts or gymnastics. So it was starting to get to that point where I was like, I don't know what else to do. I put so much time into this. But I went to Tim Gallen and I remember I handed him my headshot and I said, you can just hire me if you want. I don't, whatever.
You never know. Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting on a stoop, like a brownstone, and I was like, thanks for talking to me, but it's fine. You're probably not going to hire me.
Sure.
And he goes, can I take your picture on my phone? I said, yeah, sure, man. Whatever you want to do. And he takes a picture of me on his phone, and he goes, okay, it was nice to meet you. And I said, yeah, it was nice to meet you too. I'll catch you around. And then he hired me literally like 3 days later.
Oh, amazing.
And
Yeah.
I remember it was for The Following, a TV show that was called The Following.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
It doubled Valerie Curry. It was a fight scene, but she ended up wanting to do all the fight, which happens a lot in the stunt world. Like, sometimes that's great, with like Lauren Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
She's a martial artist.
Yeah.
She's on her shit. It's great.
Yeah.
You can really hand off a lot to her and know that the story is going to still get told in a way that's great. Sometimes it's just an ego thing, which is fine, but it's frustrating as a stunt performer to watch because you've been training for like years and years to do this thing, and then the actress is or the actor is like, yeah, I want to do it.
Yeah.
It's tough in the beginning because the ego is really hard to get over because this is like your field. This is your passion. But it's ultimately up to them, and it's ultimately up to the director and the people who are like, filling in the story. So you really have to take ego out of it because sometimes, maybe that punch isn't going to look as good as what someone else would have done, or like, the stunt person would have done, but at least they'll see the actor's face. There's give and takes to the process that you have to kind of let go of, which is tough in the beginning.
As you say, though, a little bit tricky to let the ego go there, I'd imagine. If it's like what you work for is what you want to do, and then it's like, no, actually, I'm going to do it. You're like, come on.
It can be tough, especially for actors and actresses that don't have those kinds of backgrounds, that don't know camera angles, that don't, stunt people, literally, we eat, breathe, and sleep fighting and training. And that's 90% of what we do is train for the chance. Yeah. So it does. It bruises a little bit, but it's something that you, as a stunt performer, you get over, and you have to understand that that's what this is, Yeah. So it's a little of both. It is a little of both, but the ego, the is hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is there like a specific area that you really enjoy? Like you said that you've been set on fire. You said you've fallen downstairs. You said you've done like the fight sequences. You've done falls from high falls and things like that, haven't you, as well? So is there a specific area like, if you were going to niche down, would there be one area where you'd be like, yeah, that's kind of where I want to be, that's where I like, or you were kind of jack of all trades, I like to do it all?
I mean, to be a jack of all trades in the stunt world is the key. You have to be able to do, they call it all expected abilities.
Okay.
So you have to expand. And I mean, that's what ultimately led me to start looking into martial arts, because I didn't have that training, that background. I had been training with theater people in fighting, and I found that it was not as good as the people who were coming from the martial arts backgrounds.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what led me down the martial arts world, which was great in the end. I think I learned so much from my martial arts training, even though it was kind of disjointed. I went from Jeet Kune Do, Hapkido when I was 16, to Jeet Kune Do, which I trained in Chinatown with Sifu Anderson. He was, and that, as you know, it's like so well rounded. You get boxing, you get throws, you get all kinds of stuff out of Jeet Kune Do, and of course, from Bruce Lee. So it's like that. You get the gambit, which for stunt world I thought was like, that's what I'm going to do. A lot of people came from Taekwondo, and they said Taekwondo is what you want. It's dealer's choice. But I thought at the time, Jeet Kune Do is going to be where I go. I trained for that for probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And I got into the green belt area where I was getting out of the beginner realm.
Yeah.
And that particular school were training people to fight. They were kind of the path that you went was to fight in a ring.
Okay, yeah, so the sports side of it.
To compete, yeah. And it was around that time that I thought oh, this isn't gonna work for me anymore, because I was trying not to hit people.
Yeah.
So I quickly did a 180 from that, because once I got into the green belt world, they were really having you spar with everybody. I was getting beat up by black belts, almost on the daily. So I thought, I don't think I can get what I need from this anymore. And I ended up going to Wushu.
Okay. Yeah.
I trained with Sifu Chen at Luha Ziraman Natural Style Training Center in New York City. And that changed, I think, everything for me. I didn't know that martial arts to me was you beat somebody else up, or you get beat up, and it's aggressive, and you're working with a partner, and you have to do drills over and over again of this, the punches, the blocks, the sticks, or what, which is fine. That works really great for stunt work. But I had never seen a martial art that we did the entire class not touching anyone. And I thought that was so fascinating, that it was all about my internal world. And, to have a teacher like Sifu Chen, and we had Wendell and Brandon Sugiyama, they were inspiring in ways where I was watching bodies move so fluidly and so beautifully that I was like, this is kind of what I need to focus on.
Yeah. Especially in your line of work, you want that art more than you want the martial.
It was the way they moved was so beautiful, and the lines they would create were so interesting to me, that it was such a game changer in my body and in my performance in stunts. I didn't realize that I had been fighting like this my entire life, because I was just and it wasn't until Sifu Chen yelled at me for 6 weeks straight. So that fighting, after I learned Wushu, fighting was such a different path for me. And I love fighting. I don't get to do it as often. It's a lot of getting thrown around and beat up. But that's one of my favorites. Every stunt person loves to have a good fight scene. It's just the storytelling aspect of it. You get a bigger chunk to use your skills, So I'd say fighting, definitely always number one. It's always going to be most interesting.
Yeah.
already started to pigeonhole myself into fire.
Okay.
I became a firefighter about 5 years ago in New
Right.
York City.
Yeah.
So that kind of automatically just moves your path for you. It's like I said before, like just little tiny decisions that seem right for you at the time. I'm like a very big person on intuition. Like
Yeah.
when something just like knocks and it's a definite yes without me even thinking about it, I'm like, well, this is where I'm going now. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
incredible.
yeah, stunts. So fighting and fire are kind of like my two favorites always. But I also love, and this is not really like a stunt, but I do love horror movies.
Yeah.
You just get to do the weirdest, most fun things in horror movies. You know, a big part of New York's stunt world is procedurals, cop procedurals. You know, so a lot of people do get shot, fall
Yeah.
down, and that's fine. That's great. You love your bread and butter, which is New York's bread and butter. But horror movies always give you something new. Like before I had done Terrifier, I worked on a movie called All You Need Is Blood. I got hit in the head with a pickle jar.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was in a chair that falls over, and I had to like snort coke. You know, like there's like just
Yeah.
weird things you don't get to do in normal stuff that you do in horror movies. That's so much more fun.
Amazing. That's incredible. Yeah. What's it like being a firefighter in New York City then? So just taking a slight shift away from the stunt work because I didn't know that. So that's cool. Yeah, yeah. And amazing. What an amazing job to do.
Yeah, I joined right at the right time in 2019. So I got to be a first responder during COVID, which was, you know, how do you even describe that? It was a change of life in all aspects. A lot of my friends in the stunt world were really struggling at the time because shooting
closed out. Yeah.
We had actually finished shooting Terrifier 2 it was my last production before everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I shot Terrifier 2 in a barn in upstate New York, and I remember at the time so clearly that we were worried they were going to shut all the bridges down to New York City. Like that was kind of the rumor at the time that it was going to be like Escape from New York. Like,
yeah, locked in.
Which seems silly now thinking about it. Like why would they do that? But I remember like we were shooting that shot. I was there 2 days at this barn, and I thought like, am I going to be able to make it home? Like how am I going to get back into the city? And it was a scary time that I think people kind of undermine now. Like when I talk to people, you know, in the fire department about it, they're like, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, I remember like kind of during the beginning, no one knew anything. I'd be on a bus all by myself going down to my firehouse, and I wouldn't see a single soul besides the bus driver in New York City. So
yeah. Weird. Bizarre. Yeah.
So that was a game changer. I think going into a field where you see extreme things and being in a field before that where I was doing extreme things, it all kind of gels together. You know, keeping your cool in tough situations is part of the stunt world and part of the first responder world, and using your body to make things happen. You know, the same, you know, lights, camera, action, and you know, we got a 1075, we got to put this fire out, are kind of the same feeling. You know.
Yeah. Do you think you've got a little bit of adrenaline junkie in you? Do you like that rush of, like you say, you got 1075, or it's lights, camera, action, boom, let's go, and you get that bit of a.
Yeah, I would, but I would say that it's also yes, but I also say it's mixed with a healthy dose of fear. People think that I'm not afraid of things, or that I'm, you know, they call me a badass a lot, and I'm like, look, I train really, really hard to be able to do the things that I can do, and I like to feel prepared.
Yeah.
I don't like to go, there's a saying in the fire department that you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training.
Sure.
And it's so true. You're never going to do better in a tense situation than what you were training yourself to do.
Yeah.
And, it's the same in martial arts. You practice moves over and over and over again so that when a situation comes, you don't even think about the move. It doesn't even cross your brain.
Ingrained.
Yeah, you act. Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing. It's always tough in the stunt world and in the fire department world because there's always going to be pieces of it that are untrainable. I've seen so many times where you train something over and over again, like, I'll train a roll or a fall, and then you get on set and they go, oh yeah, we want you to hold this gun too. And you think like, that's not going to be a big deal. And then you put the gun in your hand and you're like,
huh,
it's different.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some aspect of it, but to train and to be ready for stuff is, I think, the most important part of being in fields like this.
And just have that adaptability, I suppose, as well.
Totally.
Yeah. So what does your preparation look like then? So if you're going to work on, say, a new film or a TV series or something like that, what's your prep like? How do you prepare for the stunts? Do you know the stunts that you're going to be doing in advance, or is it kind of like you just get thrown on set and do this and you've got to then roll with it?
It is
literally
a lot of you get thrown in. There's the way that it works. I'll give you like a general here. So I'll be, living my life. Because you gotta just train, just get ready, be running, be weightlifting, be working on your martial arts, be working on your flexibility, and then you'll get a text from a coordinator that says, hey, are you available Tuesday? And you say, yes. And then you show up Tuesday.
Okay.
And you have a bag that has all of your stunt gear in it, every single piece of stunt gear that you could fit into a bag.
Stunt gear. What stunt gear is in the bag?
Oh, knees, so knee pads, elbow pads. Yeah. I have a back pad. They call them stunt bumpers that are like clear gel. They used to be for figure skaters. Right. They would put them in their tights, and they're clear gels that are pretty thick, but they have different size thicknesses. You have a whole set of that because sometimes if you're doing a back fall or something, you can shove a piece into your wig. Right. Where wigs a lot. So you can shove a little pad in your wig. You can shove a little pad wherever you fall and you feel like a little hot spot.
Yeah.
I have like a first aid kit in there. I've got, they call them lifts, which are little things you put in your shoes. If you're just slightly too short for the actress or the actor, you can put that in and look a little closer.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got a lot of like wraps. So, for your hands, and they're all like skin colored. So, because a lot of stunts with women are like they have tight clothes and they have like, showing a lot of skin. So you try to get as much stuff that like matches your skin tone as possible.
Sure.
Spanks. So like different kinds of stuff, like anything that you can like shape your body and shove something in, you bring that.
Yeah.
So, and they'll usually tell you if it's like a fire thing or like, if there's anything really big, they'll give you. But for the most part, they just say, yeah, just show up on Tuesday. So you show up on Tuesday and then it's a game of like, figure it out, mystery find. You ask the PA, you're like, hey, are there any sides around here? Which are like, it's like a little mini script of what's happening for the day. So you like try to get the sides and you're reading through and you're trying to get the context of what the story is and what stunt I'm going to do. Oh, it looks like I'm going to fall here. Or, it looks like I'm getting dragged here. So, okay, I should probably pad the front or the back or it's all figure it out from there. Sometimes the coordinator will give you a heads up, but for the most part, it's just be ready.
And then go.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's it like to be set on fire? Is there a preparation for that, or do you just get set on fire, crack on?
I wish. I wish it's cold. So preparation for getting set on fire is you are usually coated in a gel. So you have usually have like a Nomex or a base layer, which is a fireproof suit that race drivers wear, usually under their like big zip up thing.
Yeah.
And then depending on who you're getting set on fire by, because there's many ways to skin a cat, you have layers put on you of like wet layers and dry layers of like a fireproof gel, which is made specifically usually by stunt people. It's like a very secret formula that most people will not tell because they don't want people trying to set themselves on fire.
That's reasonable, yeah.
And so the whole process of like putting on these base layers, putting on the gel, getting wardrobe put on top of it, there's usually like a separate layer that prevents the gel from getting to the wardrobe layer so that you don't see wet, because it looks wet if you put it on. And then they have a separate gel that's like a little more stiff that they'll put on your face and your hands, anything that's got like skin showing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll put like a big glob of it on so that the fire doesn't burn that piece.
Sure.
And then, so that's just the setup. That usually takes like 45, 40 minutes.
Okay.
To get all that done. You're cold because the gel can, some people refrigerate the gel.
Right.
So that it's extra heat reduction there.
Yeah.
So you're like, almost every time there's a fire burn in New York, for some reason they do it in the winter. So you're usually outside or like in a tent getting all this laid up. And then they take you to set and they will add the accelerant. So then there's an accelerant layer. And then, you know, once you have accelerant on you, you're like a bomb that could go off. So like, don't like, they want you to get accelerant and then do the fire burn. So from that piece, it's usually like 5 minutes and go.
Right.
So it usually can take about an hour to get the whole thing set up. And then, of course, you have to make sure camera and lights and sound, everybody has to be ready at the same time, which is so impossible. Have you tried getting like 10 people ready at the same time? Multiply it by 150. And that's what has to happen to get a fire burn going. And so you'll do your fire burn, which, you know, could take 3 seconds to like a minute and a half, usually, because you have to hold your breath.
Okay. Yeah. Smoke.
Flame.
Yeah.
We're still human after all.
Yeah.
And then if they don't get the shot of the 3 seconds to the, you know, minute and a half, then you have to pull everything off, usually re-gel, reset everything up, and then do it again. It's like a really extensive process. So it can be intense, I think, as the performer, because there's a lot of meditation, breathing exercises that have to happen. You know, it's pretty intense to be set on fire. I've seen people who are professionals, are, you know, the top tier of fire burns, if they like, you can see, like, to see yourself, like, there's a story my buddy tells of, he saw himself on fire once, like he saw a reflection in a door, and he said it like set off something in his brain where he, like, you're in danger, you need to get out. And that can happen. Like, there can be panic, which is why the training is so important. You have to see the visuals of yourself on fire, know that your team is going to put you out, which you want to have a great team behind you. And
the trust element,
again, like I said, it's all about trust in the stunt world. You have to be someone who is on it at all times. People's lives could be on your hands.
Yeah, it's not messing around, is it?
Sometimes, they're jokers, though. They do jokers.
Injuries, then. Have you ever had any serious injuries or niggles, or is that just the life of a stunt performer where you just have, you know, niggling injuries occasionally? I always think back to like the Jackie Chan outtakes at the end of all the movies and stuff like that, where he's fallen over or he didn't quite make the stunt, and then it shows him going to hospital, getting transported with a broken ankle or a plate in his head or getting surgery, blah. And I just think, wow, okay, hats off to stunt performers, because as you say, they don't usually get the credit, but they get the injuries maybe. So what's that experience been like for you?
Totally. So luckily I've not had any serious injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, the world of the stunt performer is also rehab. We are always icing and stretching and getting massages. You have to be ready for your next job, you know. So you never want to have an injury or to have something that's nagging you cause you to not do another job. Like I said, it's so random sometimes, you know, like there's definitely levels to stunt performers. So there's people who are working every single week. There's people who, you know, there's tiers. I would say, like, you know, to be the top tier stunt performer, to be working like 7 days a week or 5 days a week every week, your rehab is the most important thing. You have to be able to keep it up. Luckily, you know, I've been you know, I wouldn't say I'm nowhere near a top tier stunt performer. So I have always had space in between to work on injuries, work on flexibility, work on, you know, the pieces that need to be filled in to do the next you know, round of stunts, whatever's asked of you next. So it's tough because you sometimes have to be sore, you know, you have to be injured. You have to, you know, I've had friends of mine who have gotten serious injuries. I've had friends of mine who have died in this in this world, training, you know, and it's tough because at the end of the day, there's like a balance to it. You love what you do. You love this job. You love telling stories, but at the end of the day, you also have to be like, how much am I willing to give of my body, you know, of myself. So it's a balance, I think, that every stunt performer has to reckon with at some point. You're always replaceable. You're not, you know, that's the point of you.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Let's talk then about the Terrifier series, because obviously that is smashing the box office at the moment, like around the world. I think, like the US, it's completely overshone Joker 2, hasn't it? The UK, it's done the same thing. I went to go and see it last week. It's a trip. It's a trip, isn't it? I loved it. Like, I've got a bit of a fear of clowns, so for me, it was an interesting experience to see the first one, then the second one, and then. But the way that it injects humor and stuff like that is good, I think. And like, yeah, it's just that it doesn't take itself too seriously, does it? I don't think. But yeah, but it's just so over the top, fun, gore-filled splatter. Yeah, what was it like to start working on that then?
So I worked on Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
With the same cast, and it was at the time I hadn't seen Terrifier. I didn't really. I'd seen the first one, but I didn't know anything about the second one. I didn't know that it was going to be the hit that it was.
Yeah.
We got there, like I said, it was at a barn in 2020, and I did two major stunts. I did the fire burn for the Clown Cafe girl, Leah Voisey.
Yes.
And I did there was like a big fall through. It was through the barn at the time, but. It kind of looked like it was a coffin or something that Lauren fell through and then hits the ground at the end.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
So those were the two big stunts. I did them in 2 days: fire burn first day, fall second day, and it was like I said, horror movies are insane. But there was a bunch of people there who I think were like the GoFundMe. Like people, it was a strange set, which is in a good way, you know, because there were so many people there that were like really, really passionate about what was going on, which you don't see in a lot of other shows that are, you know, they're shooting their 17 billionth season of Law and Order. You know, no offense to Law and Order, but the people there were seeing this movie. And they were doing something that I think they knew at the time was going to be big. I had no idea, but you know, so caught on the first day, and then the second day, the fall through the barn, I think was one of my scarier stunts because there was a second floor of this barn. It was like maybe a 15-20 foot tall ceiling, and so you had to climb up to the rafters. And this wasn't like a normal set where, you know, it's a low budget set.
Sure.
You know, it's different. Yeah. So you had to like climb a rickety ladder up to the second floor, and we had built a box catch, which so there's different types of like styles you can do a high fall, and a box catch is you get cardboard boxes and you build them in a certain configuration to reduce your fall so that you can do a high fall without an airbag or expensive equipment, stuff like that.
Sure.
So we built the box catch, and I go up to the place where I'm going to be falling through, and normally, so you stand somewhere and then you kind of just let yourself fall backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So they want me to fall backwards, but usually the trajectory is important because physics.
Sure. Yeah.
But I get up there and there's a bar that is like, so if I was standing here, there's a bar like right about here. So they go, oh, you'll just have to climb under the bar. So I had to like basically be in like a chin up position where I was like this with the bar and then let go. So I thought, okay, maybe this will still work with the trajectory, but your weight's different. So it was one of the things where I was like, is this going to be weird? I don't know. I'm in the tiny Lauren costume.
Yeah.
And right before we go, Damien calls me over to get makeup, which he hand paints blood all over me. And he painted so much blood on me that I thought, I don't even know why you're hand painting this. You should just throw a bucket at me. But that's Damien. He is like he's so into every piece of this movie. He's directing it, he's writing it, he did all the makeup for it. Like as stunt performer coming into this, I was like, this guy's nuts. But he was so into all of it, and he hand painted every single blood splotch on me, the stunt performer, which is always like,
cool.
Who
yeah.
And so then we go up and I get in that position. They put a few breakaways below me, so I'll break away into this box catch. And they cover the entire thing with like the fake dust, We do the fall, and because of my trajectory, I aim backwards and I almost missed my box catch completely. It's like 2 stories, and I was at the very, very end, and I basically get tarred and feathered because of the dust, because I just gotten painted with all the blood.
Yeah.
So I stand up, and this is like some really intimate stunt stuff. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but like I stand up and I can't see.
Right.
Usually you have to close your eyes and stuff, but I don't know what happened. It must have fell in before I closed my eyes. I can't see anything, and I stand up, and all I see is gray, and I think, oh no, I'm blind. And the other part of the stunt world is like, nothing can ever hurt or be wrong. You have to just do it. So I'm standing there, and Drew is kind of talking to me. He's like, you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. And I hear makeup going like, oh, we're going to have to do her makeup again, get some of the dust off. And I said, like, can you come here for me, please? Just one, and I remember I grabbed the makeup artist's hand and I said, I need you to lead me off set because I can't see anything. And so she, bless that makeup artist, led me right off. And I said, like, I need water. So I just can't, like, everything is a light shade of gray. So I washed my eyes out, and luckily, thank God, I can see. So I said, okay, all right. Are we going to have to do it again?
Did you do it again?
I didn't do it again. They got it on the first shot, which is great. But then they called me back, of course, then we do the pickup shot where I'm jumping. Like, I think Lauren had posted this on her Instagram. She's so sweet. She posted something of like, just jumping, and the final shot of me, boom, hitting the ground in the close-up. So that was like the big deal for that. I thought, oh man, I'm blind because of this movie. But it worked out.
Yeah.
Looking great. And we didn't think anything of it until about 2 years later when it came out, and the whole thing went nuts.
Blew up. Yeah.
So I was so excited when they called me again.
Yeah.
Drew Leary is the coordinator, and he called me again and said, hey, we're doing Terrifier again. Get ready. I said, okay. And we showed up. Well, so it was in Long Island this time in a house, which is I think the aunt's house in the movie.
Yeah.
And we were going to be there for a week. So I was like, yes, all right, we're gonna get to do some stuff. This is awesome. And I showed up early. Another stunt person must. You have to show up early on everything you go to. And I showed up early. It was 6 a.m. at some person's house. Nothing's even set up yet. Usually there's like crafty and like breakfast getting set up and people there. Nobody's there. And I think, am I at the right house? And I like walk into this strange house. And have you ever seen Ace Ventura 2?
Probably, yeah, but go on. Yeah.
There's a scene where he walks into like a den of like stuffed animals and he's like, that was like me walking into this living room because there's a Christmas tree with a head on it. There's like a crucified body. Disemboweled.
It's like, I hope I'm at the right house now.
A person with like a giant thing in their mouth and like blood everywhere. And I'm like, I see there's a chair in the middle of the living room and Damien is sitting in it meditating.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And I looked at him and I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he goes, oh yeah, I like to bring everything in before we start the day.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I'm in the right house.
You're in the right house now. Yeah.
So I loved that. I love that. Like, it's such a great story of Damien because it really it shows like how crazy his thought process is, but how cool he is as a person. Yeah,
definitely.
So we shot there for a week. We did the whole final fight scene and the final, the final bit. I don't want to give too much
spoilers. Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, there's a big final fight scene. So I got dragged down the stairs. I got hit with the big mallet, thrown over the couch and into the breakaway table. There was a big body slam, which is mine, and throw over the kitchen table that goes into the shot of that. Lauren did everything else. She is a rock star. She's amazing. So all the fights are all Lauren. You can see it because it's all shots of her face. She does all the fights, and she's incredible at it. I'll go on about Lauren all day. I love her. So, but then there's other pieces to it. So we're shooting the whole day, and there's it's hard to do horror movies too because of resets.
Yeah.
So I think people don't understand how long a movie takes. It took a whole week to shoot that fight scene, and there was a separate shot of the very final scene where there was like an intense. I don't want to give it away. There's an intense like stunt that happens with Gabby, and that was a whole different shot, the whole different place. Everything was shot different, but the fight scene was there, and it took the entire week to shoot. So, Drew and Bobby is Art's stunt double.
Sure.
Who I love him too, and of course David.
I think we're getting him on the podcast as well at some point.
Oh, David or Bobby?
Bobby, yeah.
Oh my God, I love Bobby. So Bobby's the one to talk about with martial arts. He's incredible.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So we were shooting all week, and there was the resets are tough. There's blood everywhere. There's FX. People like get splattered, and then we have to take off all the splatter and then put on all the makeup. It's like a whole process. I think people don't understand how long the whole thing takes. So that was going on all week, and then near the end, there's a part where her head gets shoved into the body cavity, and at the time they go, well, we need to get Lauren made up for this because when her head comes out, it's covered in blood, obviously. So they sent her off to makeup, and they go, well, why don't we just shove Jenna's head in there?
Why not?
It's like not really a stunt, but as soon as they said it, Drew Leary, the stunt coordinator, he goes, yes. He was Because an ongoing joke with me and Drew is Drew does a lot of horror movies. He does a lot of like indie movies.
Yeah.
And he always has me doing very strange things. So when he heard that my head was getting shoved into a body cavity for a few minutes, he was like, he goes, it was too regular for you.
Yeah.
He goes, you're just getting thrown everywhere. You needed something weird. So yes, that's also my head going into the body cavity. And it just the icing on the cake by far. Just such a hilarious moment. I loved shooting with this whole crew. They are so incredible. Like everybody is so into this story and into this series that, and you can tell, it's so cool to be on a set like that.
Real passion project.
It's, yeah, it is. It's more like, it is more like family. I hate saying stuff because it's so cliche, but it is. Everybody loves to be there. Even when tensions are high, you've been on set for 18 hours, like, people have been working with each other, for months at that point. Like, even then it's not the same as these, these kind of like cookie cutter shows and stuff like that. There is the passion there. It's so cool to be a part of.
Yeah. Amazing. I've got to ask then, and if you can't say, that's fine, but Terrifier 4, is there anything in the pipeline? It got left open?
I think we're going for it. I don't know. I mean, I only know when I get the call.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, I watched the movie too, and I don't think they can end it like that.
I don't think they can end it like that. They've got to round it off. Yeah, 100%.
They've got to. And I hope so. We want to see more Lauren. We want to see more David. My God, David's so funny.
And we want to see more of you.
More of me. More of the back of my head. You'll see this.
Yeah, I want to see more of the back of your head and the body cavity. That's it. What is the future got in store for you then, do you think? What's your next project? What's kind of like the 3-year, 5-year, however long that you're kind of looking to progress in the stunt industry and what you kind of want to look for?
That's the hard part about stunts too, is that you really don't have a huge any control over your own career. It's all about who is calling you, unless you start going into a specialty, unless you start going into coordinating. I kind of learned pretty early on coordinating wasn't really for me.
Okay.
But I'm pretty happy now, like performing as long as I can perform. It's really built into my bones, man. I just love telling stories. I love being a part of that collaborative effort of we're trying to all do the same thing. And when you do it, and when it's when people respond like they do with like Terrifier, it's so cool to be a part of.
I can imagine.
Even if it's the back of the head.
yeah, but still, as you say, you're part of making it what it is. And as we've said, the stunt performers are, especially for a film like that, it's an incredible thing that you guys are doing. And it's good to highlight you guys as well, because without it, it wouldn't be such the film that it is.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Oh, of course. Well, we've been going for an hour. I think I could talk to you all day, I'm sure, but I think an hour is good. That is amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time, Jenna. I really appreciate it. Definitely check out Terrifier 3 if you haven't already, guys. It's incredible. Check out Jenna's other work, American Horror Story, Ghostbusters, The Penguin. She's done some amazing things. And then, when Terrifier 4 happens, we'll get you back on, hopefully. You can tell some more stories about heads and cavities.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Jenna. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.